Hi everyone, thank you so much for joining us. So I'm Kate and I'm one of the event leads at Pharma Brands. So this event is part of a wider initiative that we have at Pharma Brands around increasing AI literacy for you healthcare leaders. And today we're talking about medical affairs. So this event is really part of the build-up to our in-person event, the Age of AI Europe. It's on March the 10th on London, so get that date in your diary now. I'm excited, but I'm a little nervous as for some reason we've decided to do this live. We could have pre-recorded everything, but that wouldn't be as fun as you wouldn't be able to poll, you wouldn't be able to engage. So for some reason we're making it harder on ourselves, but here we go. So we would not be able to do this without our amazing partners, all of which are leaders in their space, and we work with them a lot. They're all lovely, and we're super proud to work with them. So thank you so much. And a big thank you to our wonderful speakers. You'd have thought that doing a virtual event would be easy, but in fact, they've had to do tech rehearsals, they've had to plan for interactivity, they've got to make sure you're not looking at your phone or your emails. So let's get this show on the road. A little bit of housekeeping. Our speakers can't see you. It's not like an in-person event where we get that nice warm fuzzy feeling because you're taking photos of our slides. So please show your engagement, show your support by getting involved, ask them questions, vote on polls that will really help us and you, most importantly, to get the most out of today. So I'm now going to hand over to the wonderful Gerard, who is practice leader for AI and innovation at Real Chem. Hey, guys! And Sahar, who is global scientific director at AstraZeneca. They've been doing some amazing work on MSL training, and I've been promised a live demo. So here we go. Over to you guys, and thanks so much for joining us.
So much.
Good morning. Good afternoon, Kate.
Hey, good.
So we'll go ahead and get started. My name is Sahar Alothman, and I'm with Jared Wels, and we're going to take you through a journey, but hopefully you come out of this journey being inspired and ready to take action. So imagine yourself sitting in a room, it's post-Congress. You just came back with all of this information, and you're so eager and excited as an MSL to have those initial conversations with your HCPs. Go into your doctor's office, and they take a look at you and say, you know what? Thank you, but I already have all that information. I actually took it on my phone, and I was able through ChatGPT to have a summary of all the data. There you are, ready and prepared to have that conversation, only to find yourself stuck in between a hard place and a rock. Well, what do I do now? That could be the future of what will happen if we don't take advantage of what we have.
Or there's an alternate future, a much more positive future. So there's a future in which medical affairs and MSLs actually leverage AI to help clinicians cut through the noise, right? This is going to be a time where there's going to be unprecedented amount of data, an unprecedented amount of AI-generated content, AI slop. And so what clinicians really need is help contextualizing, surfacing what really matters for them in treating their patients. So through those interactions, through our use of AI, we can help clinicians become clear and more confident and walk away from those interactions, excuse me, more trusting of that interaction. So this is one future that we could think about, and we wanted to get your thoughts on what you think is more likely. So we're going to do a little bit of a poll. We're going to ask you, get your interaction going, and see, what do you think? Do you agree or disagree that AI will enhance, not replace, medical affairs within the next 3 to 5 years? So we're going to throw up a poll right now and see what everybody thinks.
All right, enter Jeopardy music. So looks like we have a mix, agree, strongly agree, a little bit undecided. The good thing is no disagree or strongly disagree. Okay,
Yeah,
well,
definitely
actually, no.
more on the positive side, which
Yeah,
is good. And we hope we can really reinforce the positive nature of the the impact that AI can have on medical affairs. So that's the future. Let's take a step back and look at the present day. What we wanted to do is actually better understand how physicians are using AI in clinical practice. We surveyed over 350 clinicians across different specialties, trying to understand how they're using AI. And not unsurprisingly, what we found was that many of them, most of them, about 2/3, are actually using it on a regular basis in a professional setting. Of those, 84% are actually using AI multiple times per week, and 94% expect to use it increasingly over the next year. When we look at which platforms they're actually using, many of them are actually just using ChatGPT, but we're also seeing an increasingly use of the platforms that are specific to medical domains, such as open evidence, specific reputable platforms that are provided to them by their institutions. So, and again, what this is leading to is they're actually using this in clinical practice to drive actions. When we asked them how they're using this information, we found is over 50% of them are actually using the information from AI to research new treatment options. Almost 50% are updating patient treatment plans. About a quarter of them are leading to prescribing a new medication, and some of them are actually recommending clinical trials. So this is where we are today. And even if we assume that these technologies, these platforms are not going to become more capable, more powerful, which we know is not likely the case, we're going to see increased use and adoption, right? So that's a given. So what does that mean in terms of how we need to think about the evolving role of medical affairs and MSLs?
Exactly that, Jared. So very well put. Let's think about how the MSL needs to evolve. Now, if we go to that first scenario that we talked about, the MSL there is that data courier. He has or she has the wealth of knowledge, and they're walking in ready to download all of that information to their HCP. Now, that's no longer going to be needed. But what they do need, in fact, is to be that strategic scientific partner, how they can take that data and help inform the HCP on the next valuable steps. So, what does that call for? It calls for us to think differently, to act differently, and to train differently. So, the next generation of MSLs need to be trained in a different way where they can not only take advantage of the new data, but be able to integrate that into their conversations.
Yeah, and it really just depends on how we're going to use AI in the future. I think a lot of us have heard and have been talking about how AI can be used as a cognitive crutch, right? It's really removing us from the thinking process. But that doesn't always have to be the case. There's a lot of examples where AI is being used to amplify and sharpen our knowledge. And we're going to just talk about a couple of different studies that support these two alternate paths. So one of these, which is basically called the cognitive debt crisis, you might have seen this study. It came out of MIT, where over 50 students were given one of three tools. So they were given ChatGPT, they were given a search engine, or actually they were just given none of the above, and they were asked to write an essay. And what the study found was that the more external support tools these students had, the lower the brain activity and the lower the connectivity that they saw as a result of the exercise. So the students who had ChatGPT had lower brain activity and couldn't actually recall what they had written when the AI was removed. And so this is not so unexpected, but it just reinforces the fact that these systems by default are designed to disengage us from the thinking process, right? They're going to provide quick answers and bypass the mental effort that requires or that allows for us to build judgment and skills. So that's one use case. That's the default design of some of these AI systems. The alternate is how can we use AI as a cognitive amplifier? And so there's a separate study coming out of Harvard, where college students were actually given an AI-powered tutor. and compared their learning capability compared to in-class active learning. And what they found was that these students actually learned twice as much in half the time using an AI-powered tutor that asked questions instead of just giving the answers, that scaffolded to specific knowledge and walked them through a knowledge journey. And these students actually felt more engaged and motivated using this tool versus the in-class lessons. So the takeaway is that AI doesn't need to replace the judgment. It can actually be used, if designed correctly, to sharpen it.
Exactly that. So, how do we take it from a crutch to an exercise tool? And as Jared mentioned, there are a lot of different modalities. So let me break it down in a different way. There are two different components. There's the scientific component for training, and then there's the skills and capabilities component. So when we're looking at the scientific component, three main things to amplify the knowledge. Number one is to nudge, not tell. Give the MSL an opportunity for them to come up with the answer. And so instead of it being like a Google search where they pop in a question or an answer and then something else comes out, give them an opportunity to get to the answer themselves. Maybe they need a little hint, maybe some background knowledge. Number two is to explain with attribution. So layer in that scientific knowledge with the background as much as needed, not an overload like we typically have with our modules, but just enough to scaffold. And then number three is to adapt to the individual's needs. We don't need to download all of the information to everybody, but tailor it to the need and meet the learner where they are. So this is for the scientific information. Let's talk about the capabilities. Now, with this AI platform, we're able to have a safe environment where the MSL can engage in conversations as if they're sitting in front of an HCP, but they're able to practice these skills and receive the feedback. So we're able to do this with three different modalities. One is a voice-enabled HCP chatbot. As if they're practicing with a live doctor, a chatbot will respond back, and Jared will show you in a little bit on what that looks like. But it's an opportunity to practice their skills in real time. Two, a dynamic objection handling. So as they're having those conversations, the chatbot would be able to give them feedback on what components or opportunities they could leverage to make their objection handling even better. And then three, instant feedback and confidence scoring. So if you remember Clippy, how Clippy would give you feedback, oh, it looks like you're writing a resume. This is a little bit similar where it says instant feedback, improve here, focus on this, and as a confidence score, you're rated this way. So it's an opportunity to have those conversations without a manager hovering over their shoulders.
Yes, a much more advanced version of Clippy, I hope. Uh, okay, so we wanted to walk you through our specific pilot. So just as a little bit of background, we have been working with AstraZeneca for years on a lot of different multimodal training programs for MSLs. And in working with Sahar, what she had was some really valuable patient case studies from the HCPs that they had worked with. And so we wanted to be able to leverage these in training. And we thought we could apply this generative AI tutor to build an interactive learning experience. So I wanted to walk a little bit through what's under the hood. And a lot of these apply to the principles that Sahar was just talking about. So, as I mentioned before, by default, these engines are generative, they're answer engines, right? They're just going to provide you the answer. So we have to design them in a way that is going to not provide the answer, that's going to guide you through a knowledge journey, but also be designed for accuracy, right? We know that we're all concerned about hallucinations, and that's really critical. So a couple of components of how we address those issues. One is trusted content only. We really try to scaffold, we keep on using that word, but anchor the AI to use information that we're providing it. So patient journeys, guidelines, trial summaries, limiting its ability to search the web, and trying to even limit its ability to rely on its training knowledge, because we really want it to rely on our sources. The second is an adaptive or hidden sequence engine. And this is really just a way to program the training on an information flow. For instance, if we're using patient cases, we want to walk through the patient journey in a logical way, but at the same time, adapt. So if the user is not quite sure of an answer, let's dig deeper. Let's try and understand that a little bit better and really meet the user where they are in their knowledge journey. And the last one is the nudge engine. And this is what we're referring to. How do we make AI not just provide the answers, right? So this is programming instructions that allows the AI to give guidance when an incorrect answer and gives hints, and then confirms understanding before moving on. And it always ends with a question, right? Keeping the learner engaged and interested in wanting to move forward. So let's move ahead. And without further ado, I just want to think about a scenario where, I'm an MSL. I've got a meeting with Dr. Smith in the afternoon for new data that's come out, second-line metastatic breast cancer data just released for a drug called pharmabrandimab. And I need to brush up on the data and subgroup analyses before my meeting. So let's take a look at what this tool could look like. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this real-life second-line patient case study, where I'm given some basic background information about the patient. It's going to ask, is pharmabrandimab appropriate in this setting? I'm going to go ahead and say yes. And it's going to say close, but I haven't given the full rationale. It's not giving me the answer, but it's nudging me to consider additional information. So after reviewing that, I've confirmed yes based on prior treatment history. And based on that prior answer, it's going to sense maybe I should brush up on my knowledge of that data for this patient type within the clinical study. So that one was pretty easy. Got that one right, but it's going to ask, this one's a little bit tougher. I'm not sure about the PFS benefit for patients with one prior line of therapy. So it's going to suggest, well, do you want to review the data? That sounds good. And it's going to show me the data with citations so I can be confident in its output. And so now that I've brushed up on my knowledge, let's practice talking to Dr. Smith so I can rehearse in a realistic simulated session.
Just wrapped up clinic. Have 15 minutes. What do you have to share with me today?
Hi, Dr. Smith. I'd love to share some new second-line data for pharmabrandimab in metastatic breast cancer with you today.
Great, I'm interested in hearing about the new data on pharmabrandimab. Could you detail the line of therapy, prior CDK4/6 exposure, biomarker stratification, primary endpoint, hazard ratios, medians for PFS and OS, objective response rate, and any notable adverse events?
Absolutely. So just with this demo, you can start to see that a lot of these AI technologies can be really powerful, not just in testing knowledge and being adaptable to where their user is at, but also really useful in practicing those soft skills, right? In having a conversation, practicing answering questions and objection handling. And so it's really a lot of possibilities here. So obviously, that was a prototype that we just built for this meeting, but we're actually piloting a similar platform like this with AstraZeneca right now. And we have really specific metrics in mind. So, we're doing what's the equivalent of a randomized trial where some MSLs are using the tool, some are using traditional methods, and we're looking at differences in engagement, satisfaction, knowledge, critical thinking, really the quality measures as a result of using the tool, but also operational benefits, right? These systems are really easily adaptable to different therapeutic areas, to different geographies, different languages. So scalability is definitely a benefit. And also faster data flows. So because of the fact that these might be more easily updated than a static slide deck presentation, can we accelerate the time from when data is released to the time in which the field is prepared to have discussions and disseminate that data?
So the road ahead. Before I get to that, Just as a medical compliance pharma brandimab is not an approved drug, and this is for demonstration purposes. So just have to put that out there. But for the road ahead, what does that look like for our MSLs? Well, what you saw today is a demonstration of where we can be. We want to make sure that soft skill simulation, that we have realistic opportunities to have those conversations with our HCPs. So no hot seat for the MSLs, but a safe environment for them to practice. We can also have two, a personalization approach. So that means we can tailor to the needs of the specific physician, the therapy area, but also for the patient and for the market. So we can scale up as much as we need. Three, an end-to-end learning journey, which offers an opportunity for onboarding, upskilling, and refreshers as a continuum. That means the MSL can come in with any type of knowledge base in their background, but also be able to catch up quickly with this interface. And four, a seamless integration. So with this AI platform, it could be easily imported into your systems in your organization and also put together with your LMS. So all of the information within your learning systems have the ability to cross over into the AI platform and be able to pull that through. There's a lot to be able to take advantage of. So those are just the initial beginning points. The future is in your hands. So it can either be a crutch or an exercise equipment. I think an exercise equipment would be much better. Take advantage of this. And I have some pointers for you. Number one is to use AI as your cognitive exercise tool. Use this as an opportunity to upskill your MSLs. Let your MSLs come in with a knowledge and practice that knowledge instead of relying on a download of information, which can also introduce hallucination, which we don't want to do. Start small. It doesn't have to be intimidating or a big data piece information. It can be something as small as starting with AI in a very concise and concentrated way. Three, lead the change. Take advantage of this gold rush opportunity of AI. Don't be scared. Take advantage of it. If you're here today, that means you're already curious. So hopefully, coming out of this, you can take that first leap into AI and start thinking smarter.
All right. Well, thank you for your attention, and I'll hand it back to you, Kate.
Oh, thanks, guys. That was amazing. I appreciate that. I love that it was a medical presentation and AI led by a data-driven story. So thank you so much. And thanks for the demo too. So we have had lots of questions. And if you do have a question, it's on the right-hand side of your screen and they are private. So don't send me any jokes, don't send me any abuse, but send me lots of questions. They are private. So feel free to, it is a safe space. Okay, right. I have a question. I'd imagine getting this through review was tricky, as I'm guessing it was one of the first times anyone had done this. So how did you do this, Sahar? Did you have like a collaborative team? I'm guessing legal were involved. When did they get involved? If you could walk us through that, that would be super helpful.
Absolutely. So, from company to company, I imagine it could be a little bit different, but we started off with a multimodal approach. So, number one was the concept, and we started off with the training material itself. Once the training material itself was approved, we could put that one to the side. Then taking a look more on the interface itself. So, how could we integrate that? And we came up with a very, I want to say, straightforward mechanism by integrating the AI platform within our own chat GPT system. So, it's a more seamless approach. And then marrying those two on the back end.
Nice, lovely. And shock horror, this question, what do the MSLs think? I think we've had similar questions I've seen similar things, but for training the sales reps, and really keen to see what the feedback is from an MSL point of view.
Oh, absolutely. So initially, when you tell an MSL you're going to use AI, they're like, oh, no, I can't. Hallucinations. It's not going to be accurate. How are we going to use this? But we did a pilot program where we had two groups. One part of the group used AI and the other used a standard module format. And then we did an assessment after that. The MSLs that used the AI platform were able to integrate the information faster. They were able to test out, and I myself tried to break the system. We couldn't get to hallucinations. So Jared did a phenomenal job of putting in those rails and those firewalls. So everything we were getting out was accurate and on point.
Lovely. And that links me to another question that's come through around considerations around MSLs using this tool for HCPs for managing queries live, or have you not done it yet in a live format?
That's a good question.
'Cause it's-
So as of now, yes, we haven't used that. It's more of a training tool, but essentially in the future, that's something we could get to. And I'll pass it over to Jared to talk a little bit about our next steps.
Yeah, I think one of the things that we've talked about a lot is the last feature that we showcased, which is the live interaction feature, which we haven't quite implemented. But one of the insights from Sahar and her experience in terms of training is how that drives so much anxiety in having to do that live with your trainer, and having an on-demand AI companion that you could still practice with and have real-time feedback. I think reception among MSLs would be very, very high. But Sahar, based on your experience, it sounds like that's going to be a popular one.
Yeah, absolutely. Curious to see where that takes us. I think we're in the cusps of a big knowledge information journey. So curious to see what happens.
Amazing. So thank you very much.